Good morning, everyone. I am Teacher Jarrett, and we are starting a new lesson this week. So our lesson this week is about communities in nature, okay? So if you remember 2 weeks ago, we talked about our community, right? We had our baker and our librarian and our crossing guard and police officer and firefighter in our community, right? Then last week we talked about materials and buildings, right? We had an armadillo in the city, an armadillo in the country. And so now we are going to talk about communities, but communities in nature, okay? So nature means animals. So we're going to talk about communities with animals. So our essential question for this week is, where do animals live together? Okay, so we have the question, where do animals live together? And so some animals, like this penguin, live together in the snow, right? They live in Antarctica, which is at the bottom of the world, right? Let's go to the next page. The lesson for this week is also going to be animals at home. So we're going to talk about what kind of place do these animals live in, okay? So every day this week we'll talk about different animals and where they live. So we can see, like we said before, these penguins live in a cold area, right? Because we can see all the snow and the ice. So they live in a cold, snowy environment, right? All right, so let's read these words together. Weekly concept, a community in nature. Essential question, where do animals live together? Animals at home. Talk about it. What kind of place do these animals live in? All right, and so we can see this is a photograph, right? So these animals don't live in wooden houses or big city buildings. They live in nature, in their community. So this group of penguins might be a community, right? All right, let's go to the next page. Now this week, we're going to learn some new words, okay? So let's make our writing area here. And we are going to learn we're going to learn 5 new words right now, okay? 5 words. So the first word is eat, E-A-T. Chipmunks like to eat nuts. So the chipmunk takes a nut and goes, nom, 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 nom. Right? So all animals, even you and Teacher Jarrett, have to eat food, right? So chipmunks, here's a chipmunk, eats nuts for food. So let's write a sentence about what you eat for food, okay? Okay. So you eat, you eat, what do you like to eat? If you know, raise your hand. Oh, wow. Okay, I want you to tell me. What do you like to eat? Yes, rice. You like to eat rice. I, Teacher Jarrett, like to eat potatoes. Okay. Do you have any other ideas of what you like to eat? If you have an idea, raise your hand. Okay. I want you to give me an answer. Meat. Yeah, that's a good idea too. You like to eat meat. Okay. And teacher Jarrett likes to eat meat too. Okay. So these are the ways we can use the word eat. Now, let's practice all of this together, okay? So, ready? Eat. E-A-T. Chipmunks like to eat nuts. You like to eat rice. I like to eat potatoes. You like to eat meat. Teacher Jarrett likes to eat meat too. Okay, very good. All right. Now let's go to our next word. Our next word is no. N-O. No. Does anyone know what the opposite of no is? So the opposite of up is down, right? So the opposite of no should be yes. Very good. Okay. So no means that it doesn't exist, okay? So a snake has no legs, right? There's no legs on the snake. See that? Okay. So let's go to our examples. For example, you could say, I have no brothers or sisters, right? So that means you don't have any brothers or sisters. Or you can say, what else can you say? Do you have any ideas? If you have an idea, raise your hand. Ooh, I want you to give me an answer. Oh, that is a good idea. My team has no snakes in it. Oh, very good. So you say your community has no snakes in it, right? So that means a snake has no legs, but your community has no snakes, right? All right, let's practice this tonight. So, no, N-O. A snake has no legs. I have no brothers or sisters. My community has no snakes in it. Okay, very good. All right, so let's go to the next word, okay? The next word is of, O-F. The birds sit in a nest of twigs, okay? So of means like made of. So a nest made of twigs, right? So like if we remember last week, we can say the pigs live in a house, or live in a hut made of mud, right? So we can see where we say made of mud. Yeah? So let's talk about what your house is made out of, or your apartment. Okay, if you want to share, raise your hand. Oh, I want you to give me an answer. You can say, my house is made of bricks. Yes, very good. Okay. So your house is made of bricks. Okay, very good. So let's practice reading this together now. Of, O-F. The birds sit in a nest of twigs. So there's the bird, and there's all the twigs, which are little sticks. The pigs live in a hut made of mud. Your house is made of bricks. Okay, very good. Now we can go to this side and make more sentences together. So now we'll learn the word under, okay? Under, U-N-D-E-R. They dive down under the water. So we can see the penguins are going under the water, right? So the water's on top and the penguins go under it, okay? So one sentence we can say is, the dog crawled under the fence, right? So the dog, we have a fence, and the dog crawled under the fence, right? Can you think of another word for under? Oh, that's a good idea. When you are scared, you hide under your blanket, right? So you have your bed and you have a blanket on top, and when you're scared, you pull the blanket up over your head and you can hide under the blanket, right? All right, let's read this together. Under, U-N-D-E-R. They dive down under the water. The dog crawled under the fence. When you are scared, you hide under your blanket. Okay, very good. Now let's learn our last word. Who? W-H-O. Who can see the bug? I don't see a bug. Maybe this little boy or this little boy can see the bug. So let's do a sentence. To eat fruit. So the word who is used to ask a question, and it's to find out what people like or what people do, okay? So one example is, who likes to eat fruit? So I can say to our group, who likes to eat fruit? And then if you like to eat fruit, you raise your hand and you say, I like to eat fruit, right? So let's try that together. So I'll ask this question, who likes to eat fruit? And then you say, I like to eat fruit, okay? So, who likes to eat fruit? I like to eat fruit. Very good. Let's think of another question. Who lives in the country? Right? And so then you can say, I live in the country. Or you can say, I don't live in the country. live in the country. Right? Does that make sense, everyone? Okay, so now let's read this together. Who, W-H-O, who can see the bug? Who likes to eat fruit? I like to eat fruit. Who lives in the country? I live in the country. Or I don't live in the country. Okay, good. So now it's your turn and say the sentence for each word, then make up another sentence. So we already did that, okay? So we're gonna go to the next page. Now, if you want to practice these sentences some more, you can hit pause and practice, but now I have to erase them, okay? So if you want to practice, hit pause. Okay, now I'll erase it. Let's go to the next page. Wow, we are learning new sounds today. Woo! Okay, so let's learn these new sounds. The letters ND, NK, NT, SK, ST, and MP together make the ending sounds in land, drink, went, ask, rest, and damp. Okay, so I'm going to read these words first and then you can read them. And, send, hunt, skunk, fast, desk, mask, trunk, jump, must, plant, stamp. Okay, so let's read all of this together now. And blends. The letters ND, NK, NT, SK, ST, and MP together make the ending sounds in land, drink, went, ask, rest, and damp. So now let's read these words, okay? And, send, hunt, skunk, fast, desk, mask, trunk, jump, must, plant, stamp. Okay, very good. Now we'll go to the next page. So here's more of our ending sounds that we learned, right? So the skunk is plump and fast. It will play and hunt. So let's read this together and then we'll learn our new words down here, okay? The skunk is plump and fast. It will play and hunt. Okay, very good. Now, your turn. Look for these words with end blends in the best spot. Okay, that's a story we're going to read tomorrow. So let's practice these words. Best, trunk, rest, jump, dusk, plants, ants, sand, must, went, nest, and, stump, hunts, skunk. Okay, so let's read all of this together. Your turn. Look for these words with end blends in the best spot. Best, trunk, rest, jump, dusk, plants, ants, sand, must, went, nest, and, stump, hunts, skunk. Okay, very good. Very good. Now, if you have any questions or want to practice more, you can practice, but we're going to go to the next page and learn some new words. Okay. So the first word we are going to learn is depend. So depend means to rely on someone or something to live. Okay? Okay, so depend means to rely on someone or something to live. So we can see these little baby birds have to depend on their mother or father so that they can eat food, right? Because the little baby birds can't move and they can't find food. So they just sit there like this and go, cheep, 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 cheep. And then the mother or father flies and brings food and then drops it into the baby bird's mouth, right? So the baby birds depend on the mother and father. Now, let's make a sentence. Okay. Who do you depend on? So let's talk about who you depend on. So, who do you depend on? Who gives you food? And who gives you clothes? And who gives you, I don't know, money maybe so you can get some candy? If you want to tell me, raise your hand. Oh, I want you to tell me. Yes, you rely on your mother and, you depend on your mother and father to survive. Okay. Now, some people might depend on their grandmother or grandfather. So you can say you depend on your grandmother and grandfather to survive. Right? Okay. So now let's read all of this together, okay? So depend. We're going to read us all together, okay? So it's your turn. Depend. D-E-P-E-N-D. Depend means to rely on someone or something to live. So the little birds depend on the mother or father to survive or to live, right? So now the question is, who do you depend on? Okay? You depend on your mother and father to survive. Or maybe you depend on both. You depend on your grandmother and grandfather to survive, right? So you can depend on a lot of different people. Maybe you depend on your brother or sister to survive. Everyone depends on someone though, okay? All right, so let's go to the next word. Let me erase this. So the next word is habitat. So a habitat is where an animal lives. Okay, so a habitat is where an animal lives. So maybe the habitat could be the forest, or maybe the habitat could be the city, or maybe the habitat could be, do you have any other ideas? Like a fish. Where is the fish's habitat? Do you know? If you have an idea, raise your hand. Oh, okay, I want you to tell me. The fish's habitat is, yes, the fish's habitat maybe is in the water or the ocean or the lake, right? So let's write that down. A fish has a a fish's habitat could be in a lake or an ocean, right? Okay, so where is your habitat? Yeah, what is your habitat? If your habitat is in the city, raise your hand. Okay, so your habitat is in the city, right? And teacher Jarrett's habitat is in the country, right? Okay, so let's read this together. Habitat, H-A-B-I-T-A-T. A habitat is where an animal lives. The bear's habitat is in the forest, right? A fish's habitat could be in a lake or an ocean. Your habitat is in the city. Teacher Jarrett's habitat is in the country. Okay? All right, so those are two new words, depend and habitat. So now we're going to learn more words, okay? Oh, look, here's another bear. So let's describe the word hibernate. Hibernate means to sleep for a long time in the winter. Okay? So the word hibernate means to sleep for a long time in the winter. So bears hibernate for 4 to 6 months, right? Okay. So the reason a bear hibernates is because in the winter, they can't find a lot of food, right? Because there's no animals and it's very cold. So in the summertime, the bears eat so much food. And then when they get to the wintertime, they can just sleep. And then their body eats the food that the bears were storing inside. So the bears can sleep and they don't have to worry about finding their own food, okay? So let's write our sentences over here. A bear can hibernate for 4 to 6 months in the winter. Before the bear hibernates, he or she will eat a lot of food. Okay, so let's read this together now. Hibernate. H-I-B-E-R-N-A-T-E. Hibernate means to sleep for a long time in the winter. A bear can hibernate for 4 to 6 months in the winter. Before the bear hibernates, he or she will eat a lot of food. Okay, very good. Do you ever feel like hibernating? Yeah, sometimes I want to sleep for the whole day, but I have to study or work or eat, so we can't hibernate. You and I have to get up and walk, work, eat, right? Eat a lot of food. So we can't be like bears. We need to always be moving. So now let's go to the next word. All right, the next word is tolerate. So we can tolerate means to be able to survive or withstand something. Okay, so tolerate means to be able to survive or withstand something. So, for example, this tree, this oak tree, is able to tolerate the very cold winters. Okay? So that means it's able to survive or withstand the cold winters. See how it's all full of snow and ice? But when it's springtime in April or May, this tree will turn green again and it will survive, okay? So let's make a sentence here and you can tell me, what can you tolerate or what can't you tolerate? So for me, I can tolerate cold weather. Okay? So what can you tolerate or what can't you tolerate? Why don't you raise your hand if you have an idea and then we can write it down together. Okay, I want you to tell me. That's a good idea. You can tolerate the crowded city streets, right? Remember Tommy from the City Armadillo, Country Armadillo? He really liked the busy city, so he could tolerate the crowded city streets. So now let's think of something that you can't tolerate. If you have an idea, raise your hand. Okay, I want you to tell me. You can't. That's very good. You can't tolerate the hot weather. Okay. So I can tolerate the cold weather, and you can't tolerate the hot weather, right? So this means I'm okay with cold weather, but you are not okay with hot weather, okay? So let's read this together now. Tolerate, T-O-L-E-R-A-T-E. Tolerate means to be able to survive or withstand something. The oak tree can tolerate the cold winter. What can you tolerate? What can't you tolerate? I can tolerate cold weather. You can tolerate the crowded city streets. You can't tolerate the hot weather. Okay, very good. Now, if you want to practice some more, you can hit pause, but I'm going to erase it so we can learn our last word for today, okay? Okay. Our last word is tranquil, okay? Tranquil means that something is very peaceful and quiet, okay? So if we look at this picture, we can see that this setting is very tranquil, right? There's a father and a mother and a daughter, and they're sitting by the water in the country. So it's very quiet. They maybe can hear little birds, cheep, 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 right? And they just are relaxing by the water. So let's talk about something that you think is tranquil. What do you think is? Okay, so I think reading a book, a quiet room is tranquil, right? So if you're in a room, if you're in a quiet room and it's very quiet and you can read a book, I think it's very peaceful, okay? Now, what do you think is tranquil? If you have an idea, raise your hand. Oh, I want you to tell me. Yes, living in the country can be very tranquil. Very good. Living in the country can be very tranquil, right? Because in the country there are very few cars and few people, and so it's very peaceful and quiet. Okay? So let's read these words together and then we are done for today. Okay? So, tranquil. T-R-A-N-Q-U-I-L. Tranquil. Tranquil means that something is very peaceful and quiet. What do you think is tranquil? I think reading a book in a quiet room is tranquil. Living in the country can be very tranquil. Okay, now we are done with our lesson for today, right? We learned 5 new little words, and we learned 5 new big words, and we learned some ending sounds, right? So that's all for our lesson for today. So now I'm going to say bye-bye. And tomorrow we are going to practice more reading about communities and the animals in those communities, okay? All right, so I am going to see you later, okay? Bye-bye. Bye-bye.